Matthew, thank you for taking the time to meet with me tonight. Welcome to the U.S.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you just rolled into town from flying in Europe, right?
Yep, I just left midway through. My partner Sophie was flying the German women's nationals, and I was crewing for her there. Before that, I was the Slovenian nationals. Before that, uh, I guess I was at the Euroglide Championship, and before that, I was flying in Norway. So it's been a busy season this year.
Wow, wow. Yeah, it was fun. I've really enjoyed following your adventures over there in Europe this summer, especially the Euroglide. I mean, that's such a unique event. You go out and fly in several different directions, and then you end up back at the starting point at the end. Is that right?
Yeah, you have a 2,700 kilometer task, and you just finish it as quick as you can.
Hmm.
And it took me about 5 days.
Wow, wow. And I think you beat everybody else by at least a day or two, and thanks to
The
weather.
next finisher was 11 days, and that was the only other finisher. So,
Wow, wow. Well, perhaps your skill at monitoring the weather really came in handy there, and your obviously your flying skills as well, because you obviously do a lot of flying and are very accomplished.
and it was just very tricky weather, and just one or two decisions fits you through a slot that no one else gets through, and that's 6 days between you. So,
Hmm. All right. Let's see. So the what is your home glider port? Where do you fly at home?
I usually fly, and I say usually because it's probably the place I've flown the least in the last 18 months. Notionally, I'm from Kingaroy Soaring Club, which is near Brisbane in Australia,
Okay.
but I actually fly there very little despite that.
And I know a couple years ago you got a Diana 2 FES, and you've been flying that a bit. And I've seen some videos online of that, which I really appreciate that you make some of these videos that you do, a lot of the videos that you do, because it's fun to be able to see an FES in action. That's something that is becoming more popular around the world. And then more recently you added the JS3 RES. That's in Europe.
Yeah, so I've been flying a bit of both lately. So it's they complement each other quite well. They're useful in different ways.
Well, I'm curious about that. I mean, if you don't mind taking a minute to kind of compare and contrast as far as both the gliders and the power plants. Um,
So the fares I feel is super reliable, and really I'm quite happy to accept a very low standard of field as a engine start option. Like I went flying out to sea over an island where a retrieve would be extremely problematic, and I have complete confidence in the fares that I'm not going to be landing on that island.
mhm.
I might not fly over 100% unlandable terrain at low altitude with it, but I'm pretty confident with it. But the downside is it's not terribly powerful. I can't self-launch at super high wing loadings. I sort of top out around 54 kilos a square meter, and that's with 1.5 kilometers of bitumen. If you want to launch on grass or something short, you better be dry. And then the res is insanely powerful, really, really powerful. It's no problem at all to launch at 600 kilos, even from relatively short runways.
Hmm.
It still has much the same climb altitude or range as the fares, despite that much higher wing loading.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's quite a contrast there. But the res is a very complex system, and I have much less faith in it, not because of any particular element, but just by the number of elements in the system.
Just more switches and things that need to happen before the motor can start up.
There's fuses, extension mechanisms, and much higher voltages, much more sophisticated electronics, whereas the fares is really a super simple and elegant piece of kit.
Hmm. Do you can you self-launch the JS3 RES with 18 meters and full water ballast, fully loaded, or
I
wow?
think you're meant to stop out at 575 kilos for wing bending reasons, but
Hmm.
I've heard that you could go
Hmm.
600 kilos.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. Now, is the glider that you're flying in Uvalde at the World Gliding Championships that are coming up in a couple weeks here? That one is it's not your JS3, but that's one that you're using for the contest. Is that one a self launcher or just a pure sailplane?
That's another res as well, and
Oh, wow.
I think it's technically owned by Ace Yonka, and its last flight was also in Uvalde,
Hmm.
and then someone taxied a Cirrus SR-22 through its tail,
Hmm.
and it went back to South Africa. And then when I was running out of options for a glider, I called up Ace, and he glued the tail back on this one and put it in the container for me. So
Wow.
hopefully it flies straight. I hope Ace was paying attention when he glued the tail on. I'm sure he was.
Well, that's great. I look forward to seeing him down there too. The two brothers are both competing. I know one in the new JS5, and one in a JS3. So that'll be fun. So you've got for crew at the WGC. Who's your crew?
I have Tim Gardner of Perland Project and 78,000 foot altitude record fame.
Wow.
Who is I really didn't have a crew until a couple of weeks ago, and then Tim called me up out of the blue, and really is the dream crew, because where do you get licensed, what do you call them, AIPs?
Oh yeah.
Like guided technicians,
Okay.
with a car with a set of JS3 covers with an oxygen tank with everything you can imagine. So he's driving down on Friday, I think.
Oh, great, great. And your glider is going to be available as of Saturday. Is that right?
That's the dream. Hopefully it pans out. There was a little bit of miscommunication that I thought the container was arriving on the 5th. That was yesterday. So therefore I should get here on the 6th. But I didn't realize that everyone else who's needed to unpack the container is arriving on Saturday the 10th.
Okay.
I will stare at the container for a few days.
So I see now you're relatively new to gliding in general. You've been flying since when did you start flying sailplanes?
I think it was 2011, maybe 2009 or something, roughly around then.
Wow.
I started with my father at the same time as, I guess, a father-son bonding activity after I finished high school.
Oh, cool, cool. And since then, you've flown in how many world gliding contests?
I think there's 9 now, so this will be my 10th.
Wow.
And yeah, Europeans as well. So 10 Cat 1s.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, congratulations, and look forward to following you during the contest here. Let's see, to be able to fly in the contest in the U.S., since you're not a U.S. based pilot, you live in Australia and all over the world. It must be a bit of a process to be able to get a U.S. pilot's license. Is it completely starting? I mean, is it applying for a new license or getting an add-on to your existing license? How does that work?
It's definitely the hardest country to come to and fly with your foreign license in the world. And I think it got hard after 9/11, something about the hijackers, and they somehow got licenses very easily. But you have to apply to the FAA, wait an inordinate amount of time, and then you have to... So first you have to apply in Australia, because in Australia we don't have glider pilot licenses. So we have to go to our regulator and ask, can I please have a license anyway, even though we don't have a license? Then you have to go to the FAA and apply for a license based validating on your Australian license. Then you have to write to the Australian regulator again and go, if the FAA calls you, please confirm that I do in fact hold the license. And then eventually the FAA calls them, the Australian regulator confirms, and then you have to go personally to the FSDO in the USA to pick up your license. You can't get it in the post or anything like that. Once you go personally pick it up, then you need to go do 3 check flights in an hour's flying. And then you're able to fly US gliders. So quite hard.
Wow.
It's, from start to finish, I think you'd do well to do it in less than 4 months.
Wow. Wow. Well, but everything is all lined up and you're all set to go.
I'd actually done it all years ago.
Okay.
Because I was going to work all the time in the US, and I don't know, I was bored and thought I might do some random paperwork, and nearly 10 years later it is coming in handy.
Yeah, yeah. And have you flown at Uvalde before?
No, I've flown in Blairstown, I've flown in Hollister, and I've flown in Minden, all of which, as far as I can tell, have no connection to Uvalde. But I did go flying today for my check ride, because I just need to do this every 2 years. And at least from my observations, it's really very similar to central Queensland, very similar to Namibia, which I do have a few hundred hours at least in. So I'm not too worried about the difference in conditions. And the temperature and all that is it's quite normal for us. It was 39 Celsius today, which is a hot summer's day in Australia, nothing we're not used to.
Where did you fly today?
From Bob Grove was going to tell me off because I don't know how to pronounce it. Bourne Stage Field, north of San Antonio.
Okay.
Where Bob Grove was kind enough to do my check ride in his Arcus.
Oh, great. So you're flying the JS3 in the contest, and you have quite a bit of time in the JS3, right?
I think I must have about 300 hours in them now.
Okay.
So
great.
I think that's probably low compared to some of my competitors, but it's enough that I'm reasonably comfortable in the glider. The biggest problem is I've never really flown it at 60 kilos a square meter, and I think we're going to be at 60 kilos a square meter all day, every day.
Mm-hmm. And
so that'll be a bit of a challenge. Usually I'm only in the low 50s.
How would you describe the JS3 to someone like myself who's flown a lot of gliders but not that particular one?
It's very similar to the Ventus 3. I find the handling a little bit more suits my style. Insane performance. It really has taken a lot of adjusting to get used to seeing a long crossing that you have to do and realize you can just wind the speed back and cross it only, I don't know, 80 knots and get 45 to 1 or something like that across these big gaps. And it makes sense to do that rather than going around them or trying to take weak climbs before and after. So it's like a little open glass glider. It's really insane performance.
So it's probably...
And handling is just fine in the climb as well, so it's not a problem at all.
And it climbs well with a heavy water ballast and everything?
Yeah, I don't really have any trouble climbing it. I do have a bit of advantage, I guess, in that I've been flying the Res so much in Europe, where it has quite a high minimum wing loading, and often in Europe you're above the wing loading you should be. So I'm kind of used to flying heavy and relative to the weather conditions, even if I'm not used to flying heavy in the glider itself.
Okay. And so, I mean, that's probably in the upper 50s, isn't it? Glide ratio just at, best glide, I would guess, 55 or something?
It's to be 57 to 1.
Wow.
But I think it's the difference between 55 to 1 and 58 to 1 is a minuscule angle, so I think it's basically impossible to calculate.
Yeah, but I mean, that's amazing for an 18-meter ship. And plus it's a very thin wing, so it's very fast. So on a strong day, if you're having 6-8 knot thermals, how fast do you think you'd be flying between thermals?
110 knots is probably about right, I think.
Yeah, well, we don't do that much here in Minnesota, at least not in my DG1000. But that's great. Let's see. Any thoughts in regard to the Uvalde weather? Any things that you've been thinking about? I know that you're the creator of SkySight, and I know that it's very good at predicting the kind of weather that the sea breeze fronts and things that they have at Uvalde. What are your thoughts going into this contest in regard to that?
Yeah, as I understand it, the sea breeze is a pretty essential thing to understand in Uvalde, and I'm hoping to be able to leverage SkySight to predict and be able to utilize those in the task. But I'm woefully underprepared in actually analyzing how to do that. I haven't been looking at the weather at all. I've been completely focused on my comps in Europe for the last couple of months and getting current in the glider itself. I mean, that's why I'm here so early. The comp doesn't start for 10 days. So.
Yeah. So you've got, after Saturday, when you get the glider out, you'll have a full week at least, more than that, to fly. So great.
Yeah, not too worried.
And in the cockpit in flight, as far as keep an eye on the weather, what tools do you use to keep an eye on the weather while you're flying?
For this, I'll be utilizing the rain radar and the satellite picture on the LX, both coming from SkySight. There's 5-minute temporal resolution on the sat pic, so you should be able to really see the storms or the sea breeze fronts moving in. And I'll also use Copilot on my phone. Because Copilot seems to handle the marginal phone signal conditions I think we're likely to encounter much better than the LX. Even when the LX is tethered to the same phone, it seems like Copilot can often get the picture before the others. And Copilot also has some OGN capability as well, which might be nice. I don't know quite how the gaggling is going to pan out here.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be getting down there next week, and I look forward to seeing you down there, and it'll be really fun. I mean, there'll be people from all over the world, many people that you hang out with all the time at different contests in Europe and other places, and you've got a lot of friends in the gliding community all around the world. So for you, it's a gathering of friends, I imagine.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Please bring me some bowler's wing tape.
Okay. I'll be glad to do that. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for asking. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me tonight, and I really look forward to seeing you down there. And have a good week. Hope your preparations go well, and you become an expert on the local weather before you head out on task on the first day.
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.